All right, well, hello and welcome everybody to another one of our panel sessions. The focus of our topic today is going to be on agritourism and the opportunities for farms to bring in education and experiences into the offerings that they already have, both for their benefits and for the community around them. I'm joined with three wonderful panelists today who I'm fortunate to know in person. And I've got first here Chiara Dragoni from the wonderful Pulicaro farm, Andy Froggatt from Slovenia and Gramona farm, and Charles van de Kerkhof. And I'll let each of you introduce yourselves. So Charles, why don't you take a start and we'll go through the other two right after.
Sounds like a really good plan, Oliver. I'm the one without a farm yet. I'm looking for a farm still, so hopefully I will join in the footsteps of the three of you here. My background is in the tourism industry, mostly African safaris. And I'm going to take a little bit more of an introduction because I think context is really interesting for the next panel that we're going to have. So background in the tourism industry, African safaris, really diving into nature, wildlife, and how tourism can play a positive role there. Did my first master's in agritourism and conservation, looking at how can we use tourism to improve biodiversity, which is a very common thing in African safaris, but not that much in the rest of the tourism, especially in Europe. Then I decided to do a second master in entrepreneurship and innovation because entrepreneurship is how we put that all in practice. And started my own company, several early stage startups. So really trying to figure out what are those competencies that we need as entrepreneurs. And my first master's I did at Wageningen University in the Netherlands, which is basically the #1 university of agricultural sciences. And it wasn't really focusing on anything regeneration, agriculture related back in the day. And I decided to do a third master's at the Agricultural University in Sweden, looking at regenerative foodscapes and really exploring who are those people that put regeneration into practice, conceptualized our regenerative change agents framework, looking at those characteristics and competencies of people that actually put regeneration in practice. And that is beautiful with regenerative farmers because they have those characteristics, competencies, living systems thinking, eco-literacy. And I compare that also with tourism entrepreneurs, and they often lack that. In African safaris, they have that because they are very much connected to the land and nature. But in Europe, that is a challenge. As I said earlier, I don't have my farm yet. I'm still looking for that, but I'm really on this topic, doing a lot with regenerative tourism, regenerative agriculture. I've got my own podcast where I talk to practitioner thought leaders in regenerative tourism and just started recording the next season with practitioner thought leaders in regenerative agriculture. The last thing is that I manage Venture Lab at the Agricultural University in Sweden. So any of their students who've got an idea, who want to explore that, potentially turn it into business, they reach out to me for nearly the last 3 years, which is really interesting because that's that next generation farmers. And they're really into agroecology, regenerative agriculture, but they're sort of struggling with the business development side of it. Like how do they need to work within that capitalistic system? I moved to Catalonia recently, and there's so much kicking off here with regenerative agriculture, with regenerative tourism. But I think we'll pick it up later. So I'll keep it with that for the introduction. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Charles. And thanks for being our perspective of the larger industry of hospitality in the potential for it to play a regenerative role in the spaces where they're inviting people. Let's go now to Andy from Gramona Farm in Slovenia. Tell us about your operation and where you're coming in from today.
Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you. I'm Andy. As Oliver said, I'm an Englishman who married a Slovenian. We went to Australia together. We spent 8 years there. We had 2 kids, renovated a couple of houses, and then we discovered that the office job wasn't all it was cut out to be. So we came back to take over my wife's family farm. She's the only one in that generation to take over the farm, so it would disappear if we didn't come back. So 13 years ago, we arrived back in Slovenia and took over an 8-hectare farm. And we had ideas from what we'd seen in Australia, looking at tourist offerings at different vineyards and olive farms there, of what we wanted to do. We live in a very nice natural area. It's of cultural heritage as well. So we opened it up for tourism, partly out of necessity. We wanted to sell our products direct to the customers because we soon realized that selling through other shops, third parties, just didn't really make it. We weren't going to make it. So about 4 years ago, it started to take off. The first 4 years were pretty catastrophic on the farm. But then after that, we started to get a few tours come to the farm, and we offer olive oil degustation and tour of the farm. So you learn about olive production from tree to table, taste local products, and you're in a beautiful location. So people sit down, taste these products in the olive grove. And we didn't really want to work with buses, but we ended up working with more larger groups. And now, 8 years later, we have about 2,000 people visit the farm every year. We sell all our products from the house or from in our olive grove to the tours. So we've managed to make a successful business for it. It's now sustainable and keeps growing all the time.
Thanks so much, Andy. And over to Chiara. Can you tell us about your operation and how tourism fits within the farm?
Hi, everybody. So I'm Chiara, and together with my husband, Marco Carbonara, we started from zero. Pulicaro farm, located in central Italy. And Pulicaro is about 100 hectares regenerative farm where we mainly breed livestock. And we also have renovated a very old, beautiful stone house, and that now is hosting all of the rooms and the apartments of an agriturismo. Okay, so we mainly have the farm, the agriturismo, and a farm-to-table restaurant. And most of our activities are related to the farm, the food that we produce, and we try and lead student programs for students. And we try and engage all of the guests who come, so families and students and whoever's coming. We try and engage them with our lifestyle and try and explain them how the regenerative farm works, and hope to provide them some good food and good quality time.
Thank you for the introduction, Chiara. Now, let's go in a little bit deeper. And can you tell me about how things balance out? Because 100-hectare farm with all of the animals and the things that you grow and tourism and the restaurant is so much to manage. And you guys are just a family with a few employees. Tell me about your role there and how this balances and the role that tourism kind of plays in making this all work.
Okay, so tourism is about a third of our in the balance, more or less, because yes, we have many different animals. They are all managed with the rational grazing. So we have hens, we have chickens, we have now some turkeys back. They are back, so very excited about this. And we have pigs and sheep and goats, some donkeys, but just for company. And yes, I personally take care of the guest house management. And I personally take care of dealing with the customers who buy our products. I lead the marketplace once a week, and I have so much fun because it's a wonderful occasion to directly speak to our consumers, and it is extremely important. I personally realize that it is extremely important to try and let everyone reconnect to what does food production means, because most of the people, by my opinion, don't believe they have anything to deal with farmers. Many people, most of the people who live in the cities especially, don't feel connected to the soil, to Mother Earth anymore. And even though they eat 3 times a day, at least, they think that food is not related to agriculture somehow. So what we do through our products and our way of leading tourism is to try and reconnect people to agricultural production. So and also I think that food is a great way to do that. And also Marco is an ecologist, specialized in agroecology, and he leads every Sunday morning a beautiful tour on the farm that lasts at least a couple of hours. And he try and engage all of the guests with a tour on the farm while speaking and telling how we lead the farm, and try and give to plant some seeds in people's behavior and in people's ideas to try and see if something can grow.
Hi. Good, how's yours? Good. Welcome back.
Hello. And so yes, we basically try and do this. So, and during the summer we have student groups And we generally lead these student programs for about a couple of years, each group. And we divide the students in two different groups and try and have a farm to table program. So a group is on the farm, another group is in the kitchen. So we try and give them a full overview on the food production and food transformation. And then these two groups swap. And so we spend most of the time with them and try and give them a good overview about farming, a good overview about food production, and then when they taste the food, they start and realize that there's something they're missing. So it's very nice. We're very proud of what we do.
It's absolutely outstanding how many different interactions you're able to facilitate on that place. And I really love the emphasis that you put on the connections that are made by bringing people from the community in, the student groups, the tourists from other places, and really fostering relationships and an understanding of where food comes from. Now, Andy, I know that you also do this with smaller range of production that you have on your place, but the interactions with the people who come are no less integral to your operation. Can you tell us about how that functions within the production model that you have on your farm?
Well, there's three of us that work on the farm. So there's me, my wife, and her mum. Nina's mum, she's an agronomist. She's retired, so she helps with the technical stuff. So sort of fertilizing, pest control, perfect time for harvest. I have to deal with the general day-to-day running of the farm, but also support Nina. My wife runs most of the tours. We used to do it together, but it just became too hectic. So we had to split the roles a little bit. But part of the day for our tours would be, say, we'd start in the morning for setup, so I'd help with that, and then my wife would run the tours. But what we try to do is give a very personal feel, whether it's a group of 40 people or it's in a more exclusive group of 2 to 6 people. We have quite a few different products. So there's like a classic tour, which is very popular with buses. So they're doing a quick stop here for an hour and a half, and they'll go on to other farms. They're particularly doing farm tourism tours and experiences here. Then we have another group which they come to the house. So this is mostly in July and August. So it's the hotter season. And there we have the guests outside our house. It's more like a little cafe setting. They go through the degustation of the olive oil, taste the products, and then we take them for a walk around the olives. Every time we take anybody around the olive grove, they learn about the ecology of the place, the cultural landscape, how we work with nature. So just our general production, for example, we don't cut the grass, we roll the grass, we mulch all our branches, incorporate those. We also have a bit of rotational grazing with animals. They're not for production, they're just for rotational grazing and building fertility. We also show biodiversity and examples of that. And we see a lot of people, particularly after COVID, there was a big connection to, or an interest in the connection to food and where it comes from for health benefits and just knowing a little bit more. And this is particularly strong in younger people, so say 20s, 30s. We see a lot of youngsters coming, and that's really nice. That's very positive. But we also have some school groups. They do a very small tour, so they just taste the olive oil and maybe they'll try some dry fruits because we're specializing in organic production. And there's a school in nature near us. So they have children from all over Slovenia. And one of their programs is food and organic production. So they come to our farm to learn about that. That's a very short tour of about an hour. But they learn about organic production, how to identify organic products and get the connection to the land, which, as Chiara said, the connection with some of the city people is a lot less than it should be, really.
Fantastic. And this really demonstrates some of the creativity that can come from the beauty of what you're doing on the farm and the innovation that you and your family have been putting into the production model of the olives, expansion into other things, and the inclusion of the people who come there to see the beauty of the area, connect with the culture, and merge those two things. I really am inspired by what you guys are doing there. Now, over to Charles, who earlier said that he is tragically farmless at the moment. You still have a fantastic perspective with a more of an overview about what is happening in the tourism industry right now. And you are no less adept at creating connections within the wider industry and have focused a lot on where the opportunities are in connecting people to rural landscapes, farms in particular. Can you tell me more about the importance of that and where it fits in the broader industry?
Absolutely. First of all, I think the tangible experience is exactly what Chiara and Andrew have talked to us about. It's bringing those guests out to a farm to understand exactly what they're doing, what they said with the soil health, biodiversity, nutrient-dense food, etc. And I love that Andrew also mentioned that it really got a boost from COVID and that there's a young generation diving into that. I think that's what we see with regenerative agriculture as well, younger people diving into it and wanting to start food production in that way. I'm not 100% sure if that's with tourism the case. Within tourism, it's still very much a different industry, different sector, where there's a lot of talking about it. There's a lot of academic focus on it and what we can do. But there are basically only a handful of examples that are being used in the world. And most of them are accommodations because they're really place-based. And looking at those opportunities, what I think is that the opportunity of tourism. So if we look at tourism not as an industry or a sector, but as a phenomenon, as a tool, that is where we come back to those experiences that Chiara and Andrew mentioned. We're bringing people out in the land. We're bringing them outside of their day-to-day 9-to-5 jobs. We are giving them hands-on, tangible experiences with food production, with the food itself, with the taste, the flavors, etc. So that is really, Chiara said it, that's where you plant those seeds with those people. That's where you're gonna inspire them, where you're gonna make them keen on food production or on sourcing your food from other people. And I really think that that's where tourism as a phenomenon has two things. One is the storytelling part. That's what we're doing now. And that's what Chiara and Andrew are doing beautifully on their farms. And the second part is the sourcing. We need to support those regenerative farmers. They already have multiple challenges, financially, definitely. So if we can help them with the sales marketing part of things, then they can do what they do best, and that's farming and look after that land. If I zoom out one more level, if we look at the planetary problems that we have, it is really, we've taken over, what is it? The majority of the land that we use is 70% of the globe we can use. 50% we use for food production, 30% for forestry. And that is what we've taken over as natural resources from our planet. So if we want to increase biodiversity again, is what we need to do. The easiest and the best way to do that is with regenerative agriculture and rewilding. Those are the only two practices where we can actually improve biodiversity and nutrient-dense food. So if we really want to become sustainable or restorative or regenerative, it is supporting those regenerative farmers because they are looking after that land long-term in that location, and they're managing that based on living systems thinking. I might have dived into too many topics here, so shoot me some sub-questions if you want me to.
No, that's all right, because this really is a broad subject and it connects a lot of different sectors, right? People are looking for particular experiences and the needs and the desires are changing in the phenomenon of tourism, as you mentioned. And there are a lot of opportunities to connect people with where their food is coming from the experience of rural life, and to make these connections that are so essential for cross-cultural understanding as well. And perhaps you can tell me where you have seen, of the many different places that you visited and hosts that you have interacted with, maybe there are some trends in things that are working well, or where people are finding success with this tourism integration with farming?
I think that's a million-dollar question, because success is something that everyone is looking for, whatever the industry or whatever you're doing. And I think if we talk about, if you want to really focus on regeneration, that's a process. That's never an end state. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that what are we really regenerating? And with the context that I've given, for me, that's biodiversity. We need to massively improve biodiversity. So for me, it really is that if we regenerate something, biodiversity has to have a benefit. But if we look at 3 lines of work, we've got the bigger thing would then be biodiversity. We have to do that with others. So we have to find those like-minded others to do it with, but we also have to transform ourselves. And that's something that regenerative farmers are doing on a daily basis. Living systems thinking, ecological literacy. I think there's other people that still are on the first steps of that. But that context that I'm giving now is already layering that complexity. If we want to put that into, and this is the educational part, our transformational personal development with others, and then improving biodiversity. If we want to put that into practice, and Andrew and Chiara know this perfectly, you get into a lot of complexity within the farming. If you then want to add another business on top of it, if you want to stack those enterprises, you're basically going to run multiple businesses side by side, which means you need a completely different set of competencies. And if I listen to Chiara and Andrew and their partners, they have those set of competencies to mix both things, or all these things that they're doing, more than two, simultaneously. But if you don't have those hosting skills, if you don't like interacting with tourists, I'm not sure if adding tourism to your portfolio is the smartest thing. Luckily, we've got other people, and Emma is on the call here. Near farms is one of those examples, is when you then can bring those tourism experts in, or any other way that suits that context, so that the farmer can do what they want to do, and they bring in the other people with those competencies to still use the farm or the infrastructure to actually do what could be done. So for me, it's really about managing complexity and first and foremost understanding what your competencies are and what you want to do as well, because you can still have the competencies, but don't want to talk to any tourists most of the year.
Basically, you just described me on my farm. But I want to zoom back into you guys who are doing this successfully. Chiara, can you start to give me some insights into what you have learned since taking on this complexity and working with so many people coming in and out of your farm all the time? What have been the difficulties? What have been the things that you've done that have worked really well?
What a question. So I don't know. I feel lucky because I believe that both me and my husband, we are spontaneously curious and happy to welcome people from all over the world. And I guess that one of the most special thing of this place, that I mean, Pulicaro, it's my home, but it sometimes turn into our guests' home away. So this is extremely rewarding. And so thankfully we have a lot of reward from what we do that helps supporting us with so much complexity and so many challenges. Especially, I believe that one of the main challenges for us has been starting from the beginning, because we are the first generation of being here, and the farm was abandoned since maybe 30 years before our arrival here. So there was a lot to do. And it is hard, it's a lot, but it is also helpful for, I mean, the holistic management is essential, because, I mean, if you have a bad olive harvest season, for example, you have at least have the hens that are producing the eggs that can support you somehow. So complexity is anyway the key to improve biodiversity, to enrich your soil, to make your food tastier and better. So complexity is hard, but it is essential. And remind me the questions. I learned so much because, of course, I always believe that there's a lot to learn from everything that is around you that can inspire you, from the soil, from the hands, from the people you're meeting, from the customers you are interacting with. Everything is a source of learning to me. So and when I'm welcoming someone into our house, into our home, and providing them a rural, authentic holiday, because if you come to visit our farm, you will meet a family, you will find a home on the country, and on a beautiful countryside, with all of the challenges and all of the daily life that you can explore in a different context somehow. So I always feel that complexity is somehow essential, even when challenging. I'm not sure if I answered the question.
Oh, very much so, yeah. And I'm wondering if you have any advice on effectively managing that complexity. Are there certain techniques or tools that you use that make it more manageable, or that you've learned to do over time?
I think that it is extremely important to have to understand what you are more keen to work at, and what you enjoy the most and what you don't. It's silly, but if you don't like taking care of accountability, you need a good accountant, and you need some good consultants, which is not always easy. And we realize that it is also very important to have coworkers who are not with you just because they need a job, but who are with you because they believe in your mission somehow, if you, who support you, who are a part of, like an active part of the team. It is also very important, and it is not easy at all. But yeah, so I'd say, and also community is extremely important. For example, this year we didn't have a wonderful season with our vegetable garden, but we have supported local producers of vegetables, so we can exchange. We can, if we have a deal on our farm, we know that there's another farmer who can support us, or that we can support others in case of needing. So it is really important. Sometimes, for example, here it is a very small community, and when we moved here, we made some new friends, of course, and we realized that none of them in the neighborhood had a big excavator. So we needed one to dig into the garden and on the farm, and for making restorations and everything. And we bought this huge excavator that we borrow when our neighbors do need it. And again, we can, these are very simple and sometimes silly examples, but of course, if it gives an example of how you can support the community. It's mutual support, I think, that is really, really helpful, really needy.
I love those examples. I couldn't agree more. Complexity and community are the keys to resilience, not just in farming either. Andy, I would love to hear from your experience, because you've really approached the tourism aspect from an entrepreneurial mindset, right? This is an add-on enterprise to an existing farm production model that was struggling to make ends meet just selling raw products. Tell me about the decision-making and how you integrated that in, as well as some of the learnings of doing this for a good handful of years now. What's going well? What are you working on?
Well, it's the farm, when we came back and took it over from Nina's mum, it was a fully functioning farm, well equipped. Didn't have organic certification then, but it was pretty much working organically in the olives. But yeah, it wasn't enough to make an income for two of us and to be able to support our family. And also there's 4 generations that live here, so we have to support the whole family in one sense. We have to look after buildings and things. So it needed to be financially viable. When we were traveling around Australia, we saw some great experiences and opportunities to sell little products that were very cottage industry, really cute. So we really wanted to do that. We didn't want to do big groups. We really thought that going more exclusive, trying to get to say maybe the more exclusive hotels and getting some of their guests, because we have a tourist area near us, to come to the farm. But that soon didn't work out. Basically, the products took too long to make. You need to be able to make them quite quickly. We couldn't really get into any of the hotels. They really didn't want to see us. They want to keep their guests in the hotel and get them to spend their money there. So it's not really coming to a farm and spending their money outside the hotel was of their interest. But we found one person, and she was trying to develop out-of-season tourism for her hotel. And this was for the shoulder season. So not July, August, but anywhere either side of that. To start with, she brought us 2 tours one year. We didn't have any outdoor facilities. We just had a pergola, so you'd sit outside, and if it rained, it was pretty hairy. It did rain once, so we put them in the greenhouse. The guests had a great time. It took a while to clean the greenhouse up, but they bought some products, had a nice time. And then after that, we decided we had to invest more, so we went for a tent, so a large tent that we could put people in emergencies. But we really came to the conclusion after about 2 years that the only way forward was to go for more mass tourism than what we envisaged. So that developed for 3 or 4 years, and then COVID hit. Obviously, there was no buses moving around for 2 years, so we had to pivot quite rapidly. We also had a lot of olive oil at the time, and we always tried to sell from the shop here, or our house shop, and that wasn't possible because people couldn't come. So we started shipping some around Europe. And then as soon as the restrictions were eased, people started arriving, particularly the Austrians, because this is a traditional location spot near the sea for them. And they wanted to try olive oil, come on tours. So we started doing an individual tour, or for couples, for smaller groups at the house. We could distance them, so we were able to apply all the COVID restrictions as necessary. And it developed a whole new product. So now that product is about 5 years old, 6 years old. And yeah, that's running really well. We've had like 8 people today, but the big thing is I have to concentrate on production because there's certain things that I cannot miss on production, else I will lose my harvest or have real bad effects for a year or two, possibly from something that I miss. So I have to look at that. Nina's looking at the tours and how she needs things logistically moving and what support she needs. But we also have, 3 workers now that come regularly to the farm, part-time workers. At harvest, we have a lot more, and at pruning time. But they come and help us and support us when we need them. They're very flexible in their working arrangements. They do other jobs, so if they can help us, they will. But it also helps them because one of them has a young son, so it's very flexible for her while her son's at school. She can come and help us. So we find that works well. The complexity is hard to manage, and you have to be a bit hard-nosed, a bit business-minded and say, no, that's just not working. I really like doing that, but it's not paying the bills. We had a few issues in the first year of like really struggling to pay the bills. So yeah, that did focus our mind a little bit better. We were lucky we had a house to live in with the family, so we were perfectly safe, but you're just not making any money. So is that really your future? We contemplated leaving a couple of times, but yeah, we managed to get through that and just focus more on what we need to do, and also try and spend as little as possible. When we first started, and even now, you're trying to hopefully get some guests to come. So you don't want to spend thousands and thousands on infrastructure, and it takes a long time to pay that off. It'll get you into difficulties with money. So try and do it as friendly and as home as possible. That's what we try to do. Everybody's greeted at the farm, even if they ring the doorbell at 9:30 on a Sunday when you want to have a nice lie-in and they want to buy some olive oil. You have to smile and get dressed to go down and see them. But everybody needs to be looked after. The customer is very important, and you've got to give that personal service. And when you do that, you see people react warmly and interested to what you do. And just about everybody's very respectful of the place. And it's really nice. They really enjoy their visit, and we enjoy having them.
And first of all, it's a very courageous story, and you really exemplify this, I say, flexibility and creativity that it takes, this entrepreneurial mindset to make things adapt to the reality of the conditions that you face. Like how you talked about shifting to a different sales model after COVID, and then going to individual tours when it started to open up again and there were restrictions that you had to work around, just like everyone else. What are the things that you're toying with or trying to improve on at the moment? Because I know that's how your mind works.
Yeah, at the moment where we live, our house is surrounded by small development blocks. It seems a bit strange as we're farmers, but our farm is just a little bit separated from our house. So these are investment blocks. People just buy them, keep them for 10 years. They double in price and then they sell them. But they try to build a little weekender or something on there. It's totally illegal in this area, but sometimes it does happen anyway. So our plan is to generate enough income to buy these blocks. And we have got a couple so far. There's still about another 2 very strategic blocks to buy. But what we're looking to do in the future is to have hopefully glumping experiences on the farm. So that'll bring a customer to the farm that's going to pay accommodation. They also can go on a tour if they would like to, and they'll also probably buy some products. There's also other demands. We get inquiries quite a lot from different people with campers wanting a stopover. Bit restrictive, our area for campers, and it doesn't really fit with a cultural landscape very easily. So the glumping sites with tents could fit into the location, because we don't want to make the place ugly. We do live here, and we will be sharing the whole area with these people or our guests for at least 2 months. But that is what we're looking at. We try to do everything so we produce as little waste. We're very much into using sort of permaculture techniques, compost toilets, outside showers. So this is all an experience, and people are prepared to pay for it and come to your farm for that. So that is what we're looking at for the future. There's lots of bureaucracy I've got to deal with and lots of construction there, so it may take a bit longer. It was supposed to start this year, the glumping, but also the year before. So hopefully next year I'll have something running.
That's the spirit, Andy. Now back to Charles. I'm wondering, from your broader perspective, after hearing these incredible stories of creativity and pivoting to real situations, what are some other stories of creativity and novel ideas to bring people out to areas that may not be on the beaten track for the tourist routes, or to add an extra selling point or value that, help to generate interest and and, well, the income that comes from agritourism?
Well, I think that really touches upon what Andrew was saying with the off-season. There's a lot of focus within tourism to get tourists to a tourism location in the off-season, but that really comes back to that entrepreneurial part, the value proposition. What are you offering for who, and are those people actually looking for it? And I think you could take this two ways. So I think the main focus now on is, okay, we need to sort of grab these tourists and bring them to this location that is off that beaten track, like you said, or is in the shoulder season. I think that's really difficult because a lot of tourists, they are just not looking for that. So they will not Google it. They will have trouble finding that, for instance. Also, very practically, most people can just travel in the summer. They can't travel in the shoulder season. So, I mean, that's the main limitations that we have there. The other part, how you can look at this, and this is how this whole regenerative thinking, regenerative development and design is really looking at that opportunity recognition, a very entrepreneurial perspective as well. That is, okay, how can we do this? And I hear both Chiara and Andrew talk about students. I'm not sure what kind of students, like what ages or what kind of universities or schools they're working with. But that's where it's really interesting to bring those people in, because that's sort of the next generation. They will talk to their parents. They will share those experiences with their friends, family members, etc. What we've seen, I mean, we had this conference 2 months ago, Oliver, you joined as well, in the Catalan Pyrenees. We decided it was the perfect timing, perfect opportunity to organize this regeneration conference in La Cerdanya here in Catalonia. And we tried to focus really on regenerative tourism, but then we broadened it up. We looked at regenerative leadership, regenerative education, regenerative agriculture, and people came in. We had 50 people from 12 different European countries. So now we're talking about an educational thing, which brings people from all those different locations in to see how does that work in practice. How does regenerative agriculture, they were running their own permaculture farm. How does that work in practice? You were there to explain more about that part. How does regenerative tourism work with the accommodation, with both the campsite that they're managing and a hotel? How does that work with the experiences that they're offering? How does that work with leadership? They went into a completely, no hierarchical leadership anymore, but a completely, and now I forgot the word, holocratic?
Decentralized?
Anyway, decentralized leadership part, which is brilliant because it's already, and this just happened, what is it, 2 months ago? And the owner just told me that the guys from the food and beverage department came up with a whole new menu of cocktails, and he didn't even know about it. So it's already in process, and it's already working with those products from their own farm and seasonal. So it's amazing that those examples work. And I think if you approach it from that part, this is really where we can bring in people in that shoulder season or a different type of guest that is looking for that. But this is really diving then into those conscious travelers, eco travelers, whatever you want to call it, but there's people that are looking for that. And I think that really comes back to education. And that is where regenerative farms are the tangible experience that we need. So the more places we've got, like Chiara, like yours, Oliver, like yours, Andrew, the better, because we need to bring as many people there as possible to have that mindset shift, to plant those seeds, like Chiara said earlier. And I really think that there's so much potential for schools as well, because we need to bring way more students out in nature to learn. So I think there's a massive opportunity there. And then, like Andrew said, there's so many people interested after COVID in nutrient-dense food, where it comes from, those experiences. So I think it really comes back to those entrepreneurs and their willingness to test those value propositions for a specific target group that they want to have on their property. And that's what Andrew perfectly, gave us a really nice story, lived experience with. Like, it's really difficult to find those people, but I think that's the key. That's where, if you fine tune that, then you will. And like Andrew said, he wanted to go for exclusive. So you don't need that many then in that case, which will probably be the same for the glamping, I'm assuming, from this side. But then if you find the right collaborators, and that is, again, that's putting it into those 3 levels of work. You look at yourself, you look at the community, you build that community of like-minded people, organizations. So you find, that's what we're doing here in Catalonia. We're mapping regenerative farmers in Catalonia. We're combining that with regenerative tourism enterprises. So those people within tourism entities that have living systems thinking as well. And how can we build a platform that then you can actually find where those farms are, where those tourism people are, so that if you're a tourist that is curious about it, you come to our platform and you find all of this, what we just talked about.
Yeah, there were some really good points. And I think the communication strategy is where you can connect with your audience and, put out the messaging that connects them with the unique offerings that each person has. I want to go back to Chiara here, because first of all, you offer so many things and you have such crucial connections with, like, the schools that send you students and different sources of interest at your place. Tell me a bit about how you communicate with the people so that they can find you, because these places can be hard to find if you don't know where to look. How has that communication strategy brought to you the type of people and the type of interest that you are looking for?
Communication is something that we definitely need to improve. And I think it's something really important to do, to let people who don't know who you are and what to do get in touch with you. It's a lot of words of mouth. And incredibly, I guess that most of the job that we do has happened because of words of mouth. We got in touch, so we now lead farm-to-table programs with a student travel based in Vermont, USA, since 2013 now. And we met them because of one of our coworkers who we met, and he put us in touch with these people. Then through the products that we sell in Rome, a girl who works with the University of Washington got in touch with us to create these connections. So we've been really lucky because all of these connections happened because of the food that we produce that has been attractive for customers. We build connections here in this place and in our home, and then it amplified so much. And now with the social media and with the podcasts and of course the community of the climate farmers and Chiara, who we are some of the founding farmers of the European Alliance for Regenerative Agriculture, and this has given us so many new connections and inspiration, and it's one of the best things that could ever happen in my life. But yes, communication is essential, and we definitely need to work more on it. We mainly work with Instagram, but and the social media, and again words of mouth. But we definitely need to. Our next step is refreshing, let's say, our website and try and communicate it better. Then, we got in touch with many schools and try to get new connections, but definitely the words of mouth, incredibly in a very large acception, is still our main source of new guests. And about we were talking about success earlier, and today I was having lunch with a friend of mine who is an amazing farmer, an amazing host, and one of those people you feel lucky to call friend. And yes, we were thinking, we were talking about this, that it is extremely important to try and we were talking about success. Sorry, I lost track of my speech, but still I was saying that we don't have guests enough. I mean, we definitely need to improve our tourist part of the enterprise, let's say, of our business. But on the other side, I would say that the 99.5% of the people who finally reach us is happy and completely satisfied of their experience here, because what they expect is what they get. So, for example, we don't have, which is insane, we don't have an online booking. If you want to book a room at Pulicaro, you cannot book it straight online. You have to somehow get in touch with me, calling, sending a WhatsApp or an email or something. Because now a moment, by my opinion, what you can learn from us, what you can learn about us from the website is not perfectly apt, let's say. So I prefer to let some of the people who get in touch with us or call or text, I would prefer them to be disappointed before arriving here, saying, okay, this is not the place for me. But everyone who's coming is 100%, I mean, 99.5% are satisfied. They have what they expect. and then they spread the word again. So this is a complete success to me, even if it's not enough and we need to improve it. I feel very, very satisfied because it's a great success to me.
Well, I can definitely add to that because just from having visited your farm once, I can attest to never having felt so at home at a place that I haven't visited. And that's very much thanks to your attention to detail and just being present. And it clashes so much with the world that we're in, where it's mostly a robot that attends your calls or an automated message and a booking platform, and you never interact with people. And I have no doubt that maybe things could be made more efficient by having some of those tools, but also that a lot of the, if not all of the satisfaction that comes from those experiences is very much due to the attention that you put and the personal relationship in the communication. Now, Andy, in your case, in the fact that your approach to tourism on your farm has shifted a lot over recent years, has your communication strategy shifted as well to tap into a different type of market or to communicate new offerings? How have you navigated that in recent years?
Really, we haven't had a communication strategy that was very professional from the start. To start with, we had a website which just had a homepage, which had our contact details. And then I think the line was, something awesome is coming. That was there for 10 years. It kind of worked. We now have a new website, and now we can see that it is actually useful to have a website that makes your farm look good. But what we found, communication strategy that worked for us, we were using Facebook. And I went on to a bit of a mission for a year for putting a post on every year and making sure I had all the hashtags in there for olive oil, tours, organic farming, all these nice words. And then after a while, the algorithm started picking that up. And now there's thousands of people that have found our farm because of that. They look for olive oil. It's an olive oil producing region. So people are looking for the olive oil to buy. And then maybe they see the experience, and then they come along on an experience on the farm, and then they buy some olive oil. We also work with our local tourist board. This started originally when our farm first off started offering tourism. We had from Germany, it's like a TV program, and it was featuring Slovenia, and it was looking all around Slovenia. And when they came to the coast, they came to our farm. And in the picture behind me, you can see there's a salt pans. They went down to the salt pans to have a spa down there. So that was broadcast on German television. And then all of a sudden, very industrious tourists managed to find us and started appearing and asking for olive oil. So we realized something had happened. We didn't even know it was on the television. And then we started to realize that our shop needed to be there all the time because we were selling stuff through that. But then that's gone on. We became a little bit more credible to the tourist board. So then they started sending people here as well. So they'll have vloggers, bloggers, journalists. So most of the main papers from Europe, I think, have been here at some point over the time, and they do articles on Slovenia. And then there's a little few lines about Gramona farm. And that's enough to bring in, say, 5, 10 customers. This year we had, Hungarian vloggers visit the farm in spring. There was about 10 of them. They had a great time. Took ages on the farm. They would making videos and having a really interesting time, asking lots of questions. And then all of a sudden there's loads of Hungarians here. It's really had quite an impressive effect. You notice there's like 10-20% of our visitors this year that walk through the door in the shop are Hungarian. And that's just because of this Instagram and Facebook they were using. That was all really. So our communication strategy has been ad hoc and see how we go. I would say we've been really lucky though.
Fantastic. Really cool. Look, just as we're starting to run low on time, I want to give each of you an opportunity to offer the listeners ways to get in touch, because I could go on about so many of the things that we don't have time to cover on this panel, to say nothing about the incredible food in the restaurant that Chiara and Marco produce. I was there when they were changing the barrels for a 10-year balsamic vinegar production that they're doing with people who are keeping the tradition alive in their area. I mean, Andy, you've been so active in the community and climate farmers, talking about the innovative ways that you're managing the soil and the challenges in the shifting climate for what is very common production in the Mediterranean area of olives, but also going into other enterprises, which I would love to make time for. And you've even become my main source for persimmon seeds for my tree nursery here, you legend. And Charles is doing incredible work here in Catalonia, though he's arrived very recently. He's already helped to connect many different organizations and farms here, including organizing the Regenerative Tourism conference that I was able to participate in just a couple of months ago. You guys are doing phenomenal work. So could we quickly share contacts, and then we'll take it from there and go into the Q&A session for our listeners, starting with Andy.
You can find us at gramonafarm.com. We're not the Spanish one. There's a very good Spanish organic wine producer, which is also called Gramona. We're Gramona Farm Slovenia, Portorož. You can find us on Instagram, Gramona Farm again, Facebook. Those are the best ways to contact us. There's also email address there as well on the website. I suggest you check the website out. There's some cool photos. It was really nicely done. I'm really pleased with that. So that's a nice little bit of exploration of our farm.
Thank you. Go ahead, Chiara.
So our farm is called Pulicaro, Pulicaro, and you can find us online as www.pulicaro.it or on Instagram as Pulicaro, Pulicaro, and we are also on Facebook. The best option might be our email, or I'm also available via WhatsApp. Maybe I can also write our contacts in the chat, so just in case anyone would like to get in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Charles.
I will put the contacts in the chat as well. LinkedIn would probably be the easiest to follow what I'm up to with regenerative agriculture tourism. The website is Fjällgås.Agency. It's a very Swedish name. So I'm definitely going to put that in the chat. Otherwise, you have no idea how to spell that. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff in the pipeline with regenerative tourism, regenerative agriculture. So if you're curious about that, make sure you follow.
Thank you all so much. And with that, I will let our listeners take over the questions. I will give priority to people who raise their hand, given the react button at the bottom of your screen there. And if I don't hear from somebody, I'll start reading off questions from the chat. Let's see how shy these folks are. Go ahead, Alex.
Sorry about that, having some tech issues. So this was fantastic. Thanks for putting this together, and thanks for all the input. Obviously, coming to you from a completely different side of the world, down in South Africa, do you think that the lessons that you guys are learning in Europe and the means by which you're achieving your ends are applicable to the world that we live in down here? And do you think that it's something that we should be looking into in the long run?
I can pick that up briefly. I think one of the best examples that we have is Babylon Storeroom in South Africa. They are doing a beautiful job of combining the potential of storytelling with tourism, hospitality, farm to table. They've got their own food production. They've got their own vineyard. So I think maybe South Africa might even be on the foreground of this and nothing here in Europe.
Nice. And just to follow up on that, if you don't mind, obviously you were talking about regenerative agriculture and the crossover between that and rewilding. Obviously, that's something that we're really looking into in South Africa at the moment with expansion of habitat for things like elephants and rhino and so on. Do you see funding for that in the long term being something that governments and organizations focus on?
That's another $1 million question, Alex. Really good one. In the long run, probably yes, but on the short run, it's really difficult. I think we're seeing more and more problems with our food system, and I think that's what we see in Europe because the problems there are biggest. So I think that's higher on the agenda there than, for instance, in Africa that I've seen so far. Yeah. If we look at the rewilding part, we understand that we need to look after biodiversity more, but it's really hard to set land apart from it. And I think that, again, decades ago in South Africa, we went from the land that we took over from wildlife to farming, and then we realized that game ranches work way better than ranching cattle there. So that is basically 100%. Already rewilding in practice. The financial part, I really think that there's a little bit going on, but at the end of the day, they're really working with landowners and entrepreneurs. And that is where tourism then comes in as another source of income.
Fantastic, thanks. And thanks for all of this. It's been great. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Alex. Go ahead, Caroline.
Thanks, Oliver, and thanks to all the panelists for your very interesting reflections so far. I'm jumping the line because my question is also in the chat, but I thought I took my chance with the hand as well. I'd love to hear, it's quite a big question, but I'd love to hear your reflections on if you would compare sort of the more participatory, the immersive, perhaps longer duration tourism experiences versus the perhaps simpler tours or the where you just show and tell. How do those compare, both in terms of attractiveness for the tourist, but also for feasibility as a farm and as a provider? And what's the difference in impact in the big picture that you see that making?
Maybe Chiara, you want to take that one?
Well, I think that both of them are needed because people are coming from, I mean, tourists are moving to visit from different spots. So, and also holiday time is not always with the same length. You don't always have option for long-term stays. So I think that, of course, long-term stays are more immersive and give you the chance to express yourself more and also let the guests have the best time. But on the other side, finding a good package for short visits, it is also good for all of those people who are coming not from that far and don't have availability of staying for longer. Of course, long-term stays and more immersive experiences are also economically more rewarding, but I believe that both of them are useful.
Chiara, always on the side of complexity. Love it. Andy, you have some insights there?
Yes, tourism for us, we've done some more immersive tours. So it didn't go for very long. We were trying to do educational tours for children. This was in the first 4 years, so it was pretty rough at the time. We were just trying to find some way to make money, what was acceptable to the market. And we were trying to do English in nature. So people were learning English language while being in the olive grove doing natural things. Well, maybe some construction with some wood, make an insect house, something like that. So we did that for 1 day a week for an hour. They'd come to the farm, or it'd be normally 2 hours. These things always take a lot longer than the time you can charge for. So you need to be aware of that. And then we also did a week-long experience for the children in at the pergola near the olives and in the woodlands. And it's amazing. That was incredible how quickly children can defoliate a forest. They cleared all the undergrowth out in about 5 days. They had a great time, but it was incredible what they did. It looked like a huge herd of deer had gone through there and eaten everything. So yeah, and it was a huge amount of work. The children would come from 7:30 in the morning, pick up at say 5 o'clock in the evening, and then parents would arrive after work, so they'd like to relax as well, so they'd be there for another hour before you could start packing up. So the longer stays that will obviously need to be paid for, but it's also a lot of time that you're going to need to do for that. But even just a short tour, so we do say an hour and a half tour for a bus that wants to come in quickly, have the tour and move on. That will take us probably 5 hours of work. So you've got a couple of hours to prepare, move everything from our farm about 500 meters into the olive grove, set it all out. They come for the experience and then they leave. So yeah, everything is quite time consuming, even the short tours, and they take a lot of resources. And you really need to be careful on what you charge for these prices, because once you set your price, you can't raise it when you realize that I'm only getting paid for half of my hours. So you have to find a balance, and that's a really tricky point, to find a good price for your work and that the customer is happy with. So that's kind of our experience of the different sides of the length of tours.
That's very good advice coming from some very clear experience. Nice. Charles, do you have some insights on that one?
I will keep it very short, Oliver. I think feasibility and viability is very context specific, depending on the infrastructure on the farm and the competencies of the people running the farm. So that's what you have to take into account first and foremost. I think it's a really good question, by the way, Caroline, especially on the impact one. And I think I completely agree with Chiara there, is we want to have as many people as possible going to these farms, because we want to plant those seeds. We want to make people aware of, nutrient-dense food, etc. On the other hand, the longer you stay there, and I'm really diving into regenerative education, regenerative development and design, when we spend more time in nature and we've got more time to have these conversations, then it really comes true. And so we need a combination.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to hand to Philippine. Great to see you again.
Great to see you too. And I've joined the call really, really late. So I'm sorry if this question has been answered already. I've got an olive oil business. So the groves are but with my partner, we are based in London. And we've just done a crowdfunding campaign to launch our first oleotourism experience during harvest in November. And we have our first client. So it's great. But I haven't looked into the paperwork. And I don't know if we need any specific authorization, license, any admin we would need to bring people into our groves. And that would be like Spain or Andalusia specific, I guess.
So do either of you have experience with having to go through bureaucracy or paperwork to allow for tourism operations on your farm, Chiara or Andy?
Yeah, we had to go through that process. So my wife is the registered farmer, so we can sell primary produce direct to customers from the farm. Olive oil is classed as that, even though it is processed. But then we had to register additional activities. So that can be farm tourism, so stays, landscape advice, consultancy, tourist, all different things you can register. But you have to register those to be able to issue an invoice and to be in the tax system. So that is quite specific for Slovenia that I know of. I'm sorry, I have no idea about Spain, Andalusia.
Okay. Yeah, and our business is in London, so maybe, yeah, I'm just not sure really.
Is there any farms doing something similar to you nearby that you can call and speak to them? Because if they're successful, they're probably quite happy to share their experiences with you.
Yeah, maybe. It feels like it's not so big in Andalusia just yet, or maybe I don't know the farmers. So, but maybe I can ask people from Yannick.
Yeah, La Hoguera, they have experience with this for sure. And with their educational offerings, they might be able to tell you what those specific activities would require as well.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, guys.
Lovely. Let's go to Mania.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi there. Thank you for hosting this. I guess I'm opening up. I was actually having this conversation with Chiara, and I'd like to open it up to everyone. We have a farm in Tuscany, just outside Siena, and we make oil and wine. And we're quite diversified, and the property has got a big borgo, a big house, which lends itself to tourism, and it's almost seems a sin when you have that, not to make use of it within the diversification of a farm. So we have tourist activity, which includes a restaurant. And initially it was kind of a family home, which I opened up to externals. So I was very involved in the tourism and the restaurant myself. And now I dedicate myself much more to the animals, which we use in the farm. And I dedicate myself more to the wine and to the oil. So I guess it's a dilemma of the medium-sized, diversified, regenerative or in conversion farm, where you start off and like Chiara, and you can actually be directly relating to clients and hence transmit your mission. And then you become bigger and you find yourself managing a team of people. So now there's about 30 of us. And actually, I'm a vet by profession and then converted to farming and haven't got a clue about tourism really, but just do it. And now I'm kind of finding myself, I want to manage this place holistically, and I need to know about management. But also I rely on all these people who work here to transmit and communicate to the visitors. And I call them visitors rather than tourists, because we like to think that our audience is very diversified bunch of people who are interested, at least, or open to the idea of learning about food and where it comes from, and farming and sustainable or regenerative ways of farming. So does
Yeah, I'm
anybody
not sure
out
if I
there?
understand the question there.
Yeah, so I'm getting there. So does anybody out there have experience in managing your team? So managing people who are in the hospitality industry, who come and work in the regenerative farm, in the restaurant business, and come and do that. And I guess transmitting to them, working through them, to transmitting regeneration through not only agriculture, but through hospitality, through serving your food. Yeah, I mean, we're actually trying very hard, you know, even from what Chiara was talking about. Okay, my website. What should my website look like? Should I just be talking about food, and then, or should I keep it a little bit more open? And then people, when they get here, then I talk to them about food and I sensitize them. Yeah, your hands up.
Yeah, I just want to see if I understood your question correctly. It was two parts. One is, how do you manage people as your team grows and it's not all going through you? And the second part is, how do you transmit the regenerative principles that you have on your farm into the tourism aspect of the business? Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm thinking
Let's start there and see where we get.
Yeah.
Okay. So Chiara, can you give us some insights on those?
It's a big question, and we were talking about that. Yeah, I believe that it is. Yeah, I had before I said that it is extremely important to have a good team that is made not only of people who are searching for a job, but also for people who are motivated, inspired, and who by what you do, and who believe that you're doing something good. So it is important to involve them and also let them share these idea, this lifestyle, this mindset. And for example, when we serve meals at the restaurant, there's a very nice guy working in the room and serving meals with me, who is a wine lover, and he's much more expert than I am, for example, about wines. So he can tell much more than I can to the guests about wine. But both of us, while serving a dish, we explain, even if it's a simple dish of plate of pasta, we tell them, look, this pasta is made with this flour, this pasta is handmade, we use our eggs, all of the ingredients are coming from our farm. And if they're not coming from our farm, then they are coming from local farmers, who are people who we trust and who produce food in a lovely way. I mean, I believe that it is very important that every part of the team feel involved, because they actually are a part of the process somehow. So it's not always easy, but I believe that it is extremely important. And yeah, regeneration also touches local communities, and also everyone is somehow involved.
Thank you, Chiara. Andy, do you have any insights on how the principles of regeneration that you put on your farm also work their way into the tourism aspect? You're still on mute, bud.
So I think we do it from the start, really. Regeneration is part of the message. Ultimately, we've got a very romantic product, olive oil. It's got this image in people's heads straight away, Mediterranean. So they've already got some ideas about that. But then we talk to them, and the tours will be run by either myself and my wife mostly, but also her mum. So every one of us is personally involved in the farm. We have a smaller workforce. So our other workers, if they're around, for example, at harvest time, they'll be showing people how they harvest and also maybe looking after a few of them. But otherwise, it's a very personal experience, and we want to keep it that way. The more personal we are with the guests, the more they seem to like it. Very much, I think, a social media sort of thing. We're a community creature. We always like to know what other people are doing and how it's presented. And that's the more personal your stories, the more people react nicely to that. But that could also be a worker on the farm telling their side of how the harvest goes. People find this really interesting and just like to talk to people if they get the opportunity and you're welcoming enough to them. That is kind of how we do it.
Marvelous. Charles, do you have some insights on this as well?
Yeah, I'll keep it short. Really, really good question, Mania. And I think that's one of the struggles that most people have, because you want to do everything, but you can't. So you need to look for other people that will pick up things that you started and then take over. Vocabulary is key. We're talking about tourists. Are we talking about guests? Are we talking about visitors? So that's something that at the end of the day, none of us are, well, Oliver, but I'm not sure, and Andrew, but the rest were not native English speakers. So we would use it interchangeably. We might not think about it twice. But for others, it's we just focus on our guests. They're coming to our home and we're making them feel home. And this is what Oliver said earlier as well. He went to Chiara's farm and felt home straight away. So those are those experiences that they then built in. And I think we can use that tourism part as a Trojan horse. So I don't think you have to I prefer not to use the word regenerative, to be honest, because that already comes up with completely different expectations, and it might be too fluffy, it might be too hippie on the one hand side, or it might be, way too complicated and complex on the other hand. So just really nice experiences bring you back to really good food. That's to me enough. That would make me come. Second part that you addressed is that collaboration with employees. That's where I'm focusing most of my time now. It is finding those like-minded people. And where that starts off with, and Chiara mentioned it before as well, I think it was Chiara, I'm not sure if it's Chiara or Andrew now, curiosity. People that have that curiosity to learn more. Those are the ones that I work with. And it's really, it's not just finding the right employees for that, but also the right people that you want to connect to. So that is the other farmers, that is the tourism companies, like Andrew mentioned, the tourism organization. Where are those people that are curious, that want to do something about this, that want to learn, that want to understand more living systems mindset, understand that ecology. And if we connect to those, then together we learn more, we improve more, we find those right people. Just like coming back to the communication part, how do you find your guests? It is through those people, through that mouth-to-mouth communication, that you then find those staff members that will be a bliss for you in the future.
Nice. Those are some great reflections on a very big topic. And I think I've got one more good question from the chat here that will wrap things up nicely. This comes from Alex. Thanks for coming, Alex. If you would be starting a touristic side business of your farm just now, what kind of support would you have wished to be there? Thinking about websites, booking platforms, social media campaigns, PR to promote your touristic offers, but also collaborations with local partners. Who wants to take that one? Maybe these are support mechanisms that you want even now. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, I think they could still be supportive now. But yeah, we did try to get a few grants for different things to pay for professional fees for advertising material. We generally worked with people close to us, so we have talented neighbours. We did have a farm cooperative that was running for a while, an organic farm cooperative here. So there's another 6 farmers that were in that. They're still a resource of information for what we need, any information. So that is really important. Yeah, so that's kind of it, really, that we kind of work together with as many people as we can. And yeah, using the local community. Website design would always be great, but there's so many things on that list. I think you have to prioritize what suits you for your business, and you've got to try and establish who those customers are that you're trying to target, and that's where you need to put your resource in. However, we started and we targeted the wrong people. We ended up doing more large-scale tours when we were looking to do exclusive tours. Maybe our advertising wasn't very good, or that client really wasn't there. We have had a few since, but yeah, I'm glad we went the way we did in the end, and we didn't go for the exclusive route. But it has to suit your farm and your needs.
Nice. Chiara, what about you? What would have helped you out in the beginning to get started, and maybe what support mechanisms could you still use?
Well, I didn't have a lot of experience, so in hospitality, I mean, and I think that it is helpful to get a chance and travel and have experiences in hospitality. I mean, there are many mistakes that I made at the beginning that with more expertise I would have maybe avoided. Maybe I would have done other kind of mistakes, but I'm not sure. Mania's question is really interesting also about how to communicate. And I think that the truth is that you cannot do everything by yourself, but there's still something you still have to do by yourself for a genuine communication. Maybe not every day, but maybe through the social medias, which that are very simple and user-friendly tool. It will be good to have a weekly schedule, at least when you have a specific spot to dedicate to it, to share. Yeah, I think that something like that can be useful. But on the other side, for example, I know I need to refresh my website, for example, but I don't know exactly how to. I had a sort of a discussion with one of our consultants. We have this booking engine that is provided by a local company, and they not only are a software house, but they also build websites. And so our website that is currently online is made by this company. And at some point I told the consultant, hey, look, the point is that everything is around the farm. So my main thing here is the farm, and everything rotates around it, the tourism, the product, the food, the restaurant, but the farm is what we have to focus on, what I want to communicate. And at that point he said, hey, look, if you want to have guests at your guest house, you don't have to focus on your farm. Nobody cares if you have a farm or not. You're just in a beautiful place. Your house is beautiful. The rooms are beautiful. You just have to spread the word about where you are, what the people can do in the surroundings, and no matter if you have a farm or not. So at that point, I understood that this man didn't really get what I do, and maybe he's not the right one for us, okay? But still, I need to find someone who believes in my core, in the core of my project. So it's not easy. I don't have a real answer for this question. It's a very complex and wide topic to talk about.
Well, thank you for your insights all the same. Now, Charles, big part of what you do is helping people out in situations like this. Tell us what's available out there and what you would advise.
I don't have a farm yet, so I can't talk from the farm experience, but I've been looking for a farm for the last 6 years, basically. And I started realizing that, hold on, we need so many different competencies to make a farm work, and especially if you want to combine it with tourism. So that's where I had the luxury position the last 6 years to dive in all those different things. So business development for me would be the main answer here. What are the target groups that you're looking at? What is that value proposition that you're offering to them? And that would be the support that I would get if I would start a farm today. And then it doesn't matter if you just focus on the farming, if you bring in tourism, if you bring in any other enterprise to your farm, you really want to have support on that business development. That's the luxury that I gained that myself in the last 6 years, and that I'm providing for the Agriculture University in Sweden and for others. So that's something that we're building, and I'm really active with that nexus now. And there's people like Emma on this call as well that are doing that, the nexus between tourism and agriculture. And I think that is really, if you find those people, then they speak that language that Chiara was just missing with a consultant. They know what you're going through. They know those bottlenecks, the struggles, and they can think with you and what would suit in that context. So yeah, there's a lot in the pipeline with that at the moment.
I really look forward to seeing what comes up soon. And that about does it for our time. I want to thank everybody who spent time out of their day, and especially our panelists with their busy schedules, making time to be with us and to share their insights today. It's very generous of you. And I want to remind all of you that these conversations continue in the Climate Farmers community. If you're an active farmer anywhere in Europe, it's free to join. We have a whole suite of support mechanisms and resources through our website and through my coordination in the community. We would love to help you find success in your own regenerative transitions. And yeah, this recording will go out on the Climate Farmers YouTube channel to join the library of all the other panels that we've done so far, and also on the Regenerative Skills podcast. So look for those if you want to share this message with the people in your network. So again, thank you so much for your time, and have a great rest of your evening.